Please fasten your seatbelts, keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because here we go. Okay, main point number 1. Gender, sexuality. Here's the gray area where they sometimes overlap and mix up and make distinguishing the two somewhat difficult. But they still have their own categories: gender and sexuality. I think the Jess did a really amazingly awesome job on Monday of sort of setting a blanket foundation of what this all means, you know? I do think that it's really hard to expect someone to accept and understand and respect something that they know nothing about, you know? I mean, there are a lot of things that I don't know anything about that I'm not necessarily opposed to or against or unwilling to understand, but it's just that I have yet to be educated. So, on that basic level, that's what this channel is about. It's about education. So I think Jess did a really good job with that. I have to be honest, it took me a while to figure out what I was going to say and how to say it, and I realized that I can't begin to give my opinion until I feel like we all stand on the same level of knowledge. Because if I critique something, or if I give you a perspective but you don't know what I'm talking about, then it might be hard to agree or disagree or have some reason that you feel a certain way that you do about something that I'm saying. So this is my pre-video to the video that I will share my opinions in. I wanted to give you a background of transgendered terms and words in the community that are pretty commonplace. I think Jess did a good job, but I was just gonna make sure we covered all our bases. On Urban Dictionary, if you look up transgendered, the very first entry that comes up says that a term referring to one's gender and sex are not always or ever equivalent. Often it is used to refer to the person themselves. This is a broad term that includes transsexual, pre- or non- or post-op, non-gendered people, people that don't identify with a gender, bi, tri, or multi-gendered people, people that feel that they're female and male at the same time, also what we call genderqueer today, and people who are androgynous, or people that don't identify with a certain gender but sometimes identify with characteristics and such like that. Or they could identify as female but have characteristics more as male. The state of being transgendered may or may not have any bearing on sexual preferences. This is a good point to make because there are all types of gay people. You don't have to be a certain type of gay, right? And we've talked about that over and over again. And in the same token, there is no one way to be a trans person. Okay? So, a lesbian that is a lesbian that has a male past, a past of being a bio-male, but is now and has for most of her life identified as a female, is not any more trans than, say, a trans guy who was born female, identified as a lesbian for X number of years, and is now living as a man. There are different types in everything, you know? There are different genres, and it's just, you have to come to understand that people are different, and that's what makes it interesting, because if we were all the same type of person, there would be no need for a channel like this. And the last definition that I found for transgender that I thought was really, really interesting says, anyone whose physical makeup, emotional, sexual, and or self-expression is in conflict with current cultural gender stereotypes. Which I found to be really interesting, because I think the biggest disconnect is that gender is a cultural thing. It's very much a cultural thing, and things that aren't norm today are very different in previous times or in other cultures, in different countries and such. It's like in the 1900s, women weren't supposed to wear pants, you know? And so the example that it gives is like a woman who wore pants in early 1900s technically could be considered transgendered because she cross-dresses and wears male attire. So I think that you have to realize that the way that you were raised and the gender stereotypes that you've been culturally given have a lot to do with what you think. While we're on the topic of names, another thing that I've noticed, that I can only speak for myself because every trans person is different, but I've noticed in a lot of the comments that people are identifying trans people just by the word trans. Like, I would never date a trans, or I would definitely date a trans. And I find this somewhat unsettling. I know that it's a way for non-trans people to identify our community, but I don't say that I would date a gay, right? No. I mean, maybe some people do, but it's not general nomenclature to say I would date a gay. I say I would date a gay woman, or I would date a gay man. In the same token, you want to say I would date a trans person, or a trans guy, or a trans woman. So there needs to be a noun attached to the adjective trans. It's true that it's really hard to understand a group of people that you have never met or don't know anything about. The HRC says that we are estimated to be 1% of the US population, but I think that with the internet and with YouTube and with there being more and more access to people of different types, that the education possibilities are endless, you know? I think that the trans community on YouTube has grown immensely and will continue to, and as long as the representation of all different types of people stand, then there's always that possibility to learn more. It's just a matter of how much you want to know.